Welcome back to the shop, everyone. This week's video takes place in 2024, week 23. That is June 3rd to June 9th, and we are just kicking this off by adjusting the ride height on this a little bit. So, in the previous video, when I was backing it out of the driveway, the intercooler kind of scraped along the ground, so I'm just going to jack this up and play with the ride height a little bit, hopefully get that helped out a little bit. You know, the process isn't too crazy here. Just get the tire jacked up, and then you can just use your wrench and spin the bottom adjuster nuts. Really nothing too big here. So after I adjust it, I'm just, taking a tape measure and just making sure it's adjusted the same on both sides. In theory, as long as the frame's not super off, like it should be very close and just good enough. All right, so now we are back on working on the clutch. So that, what was in my hand there and I was measuring is just a little block. The instructions for the kit that I got say there should be 1.4 inches of gap between the master cylinder and the block that mounts on the firewall. So I 3D printed that block and it comes in at 1.4 inches. So from the previous video, the clutch just isn't working. Push the clutch in and it does not want to go into gear. It's just you're fighting the transmission. If you get it rolling a little bit, it'll slide in, but from a standstill clutch in, it just will not go into gear. No way, no how. Like, you would have to grind it. Like, it's not a good situation to be in. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure the master is properly adjusted from the firewall. That seems to be all right. I take a look underneath, make sure it's all good there, and eventually I do the smart thing and I call the manufacturer of the hydraulic clutch kit that I got and talk to them and get their opinion. But that's not for a little bit. Right now I'm just playing with trying to adjust the clutch pedal to see if I can, get this set up correctly and work. So after, confirming all the adjustments, everything else, we'll jump back in the car, fire it up, and see if, I can move the car without it, trying to grind and die. And no, that didn't work at all. Same issue. Clutch in, and it doesn't go into gear. So at this point in time, I'm, just checking underneath, checking the release bearing, and, it looks like the release bearing is, right up against the teeth like it's supposed to be. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. It's not like it's super spaced back. So I'm just looking around. I don't really know what I'm looking at. I'm just checking to see if there's anything obviously wrong, and I haven't found anything wrong. So, I'm going to take the seat out. I'm going to check up under the dash, make sure nothing's getting hung up, make sure I'm getting full travel, stuff like that. So yeah, in this, there's just a ton of me messing around and trying to adjust the master so that it's, the correct distance away from the firewall and all those sorts of things, because I'm thinking that's, got to be the problem, right? So I'm trying to adjust a little bit more, a little bit less, just to see if any of that helps. for this final time, I jump in the car and I test the clutch pedal, and you'll see here in a second how much that master moves when I press the pedals, right? Like both the brake and the clutch are just all over the place, and I'm like, I know that when I fabbed in the little piece for the clutch way long ago, it wasn't really good. Like it was just supposed to be temporary, just to get me through the summer. But now with how much everything is moving, I'm like, well, maybe that's causing some of the issues, because it's, it's moving so much, it's not engaging fully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up some steel, I'm going to fab it, and I'm going to reinforce the firewall around the clutch and the brake, just to hopefully make it so that, it's a little bit more solid. So this is something that you've kind of seen me do a lot, and you've seen, the back of my head before. Terrible camera positioning is not new to this channel. But yeah, so I'm going to take a chunk of steel, and I'm just going to cut it down to the size where it's going to fit above the clutch pedal where there's a massive gap, and then I will weld it in. Now that everything's kind of cleaned up and tacked in, one thing that I am going to do is I'm going to make sure I put some fire retardant paper inside the end, or inside the cab, because I don't want any sparks to hit the brand new carpet that we've put in, or the wiring or anything like that. So we're going to just put some of that fire retardant paper down on the inside, a little bit in the engine bay, try and cover up some of the important bits, because a lot of the stuff is new, so I don't want to ruin anything, but I also want to reinforce the firewall. So as I'm welding, the seam sealer that's existing on the car, which is, it's kind of a really tight area there, and there's a lot of panels overlapping, so there's seam sealer. So as I'm welding, it's quite literally lighting the car on fire. It's lighting that seam sealer on fire, so I grabbed an air chuck just to be able to really quickly put that out. But you can kind of see throughout the shop that there is still a lot of smoke coming off, so I eventually opened up the door, I think, because of all the smoke, just to kind of clear it out. You can still see there's still quite a bit of movement, so I'll do a bit more work. But yeah, I'm just setting up this tripod with my phone just to kind of see how much movement there is, and that way I can compare it from before and after. But yeah, there's still a ton of movement there. So yeah, I just finished welding on another piece to fill a hole, and you can't really see here, but I think if I recall correctly, the clutch didn't move as much. There still had some movement, which kind of makes sense, but it wasn't moving as much. So I'm kind of happy with how that all turned out. I mean, it's ugly as fuck, but you know, the function is okay. So at that point, we can jump in the car. We can give it a quick little test. You know, run the engine, see if the clutch works at all, which it still does not work. So yeah, so at this point in time, I really don't know what else it could be. I mean, I followed all of the instructions for the hydraulic clutch conversion kit, for the throwout bearing, for everything. And I just do not know why this isn't working. So I do the smart thing. I call up the manufacturer of the hydraulic clutch kit and I say, hey, this is what I'm running into. This is happening. I've got, you know, got the proper clearance. I did all the measurements when I installed it. But the clutch just isn't working. I push the clutch to the floor. It will not go into gear. And the guy said, okay, well, what it sounds like is you might have air in the system. And I said, okay, well, I followed all the instructions, you know, like I gravity bled it. And then I took the syringe with the plunger and threw that in there. And the guy said, 99% of our customers take that little rubber stopper and throw it out the window. They just take the syringe, put it directly in the hole in the master or in the reservoir and just push the fluid through like that. So I said, okay, I can do that. I'm also taking this self-bleeder bottle, which I use on the brakes, which is fantastic. It'll allow fluid to go one way and then suck it back up so that you can, you know, if I wanted to activate the clutch, I could do that. And then, so this is what I mean right here. The syringe goes directly into the reservoir. I don't use that black stopper that I used before and just force the fluid through. And you can actually see after I get the fluid forced through that it's actually just flowing super quickly. But right there, you can see all that air coming out, and I was like, holy crap, that was a lot of air in this system still. You can still see some bubbles coming through there. So in my mind, I'm like, holy crap, even though I thought I bled this, I followed all the instructions, clearly there was still air in the system. And so at this point in time, I'm like, hey, that's a really good sign. Like, I got all the air out of the system, let's test this out. You know, the pedal feels good. So let's open up the garage door, make sure I got fluid in the reservoir. Let's jump in. Let's just fire it up. You know, get my foot on the clutch, and I still can't get it into gear. Yeah, so that's just really, really frustrating. So I'm just underneath. I'm just kind of checking the throwout bearing and making sure it's activating clutch and stuff like that, and you know, just doing everything that I believe it's supposed to do. So yeah, this is just really, really frustrating stuff right now. So since it looks like everything's working, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before, which is, you know, just try adjusting the stroke on the master. Maybe I had too much, maybe I had too little. That's what I'm doing right now. So after this latest adjustment, still nothing is working. And unfortunately, that's where we got to leave it for the week, because that's all the work I did this week. But as always, hey, we'll get this figured out. And if you've stuck around this long, I'd like to thank you for viewing, and we'll catch you in the next one.